First song I wrote, I sang a cappella into my Fisher-Price tape recorder. It was called "The Garbage Pail Kids Are in Town." And it was about the garbage pail kids coming to town. And I was always making up songs. I took piano lessons when I was a kid, and I never practiced because anytime I learned something new, I would try to make something up with it as opposed to practicing the pieces they gave me. So I'm still a terrible pianist, but I can play just well enough to write my own stuff. And my parents were both born in Puerto Rico, so we had a really weird mix of Latin music and cast albums. They were both really big fans of Broadway. We couldn't afford to go to Broadway, but we could afford cast albums. So it was a lot of Gran Combo and Celia Cruz mixed with, Man of La Mancha and mixed with Camelot. And then, also I grew up on 200th Street in New York, so hip hop was a constant. And I was always trying to blend all those things together. I always gravitated towards music that told stories. I remember my mom listening to Les Mis, and I remember there was one song that would make her cry every time she heard it, and feeling like that's really powerful. This type of music, storytelling music, makes my parents emotional in a very deep way. And I was lucky enough that I went to a high school that did original plays. So I started writing songs for that. I started writing these 20-minute musicals that, if they were good enough, would get put up at the end of the year. And so,
what high school was that?
Hunter High School. It's a magnet public high school in Manhattan. And so I really started having a goal to write towards. And then really started putting it all together. In the Heights was my first full-length show, and I wrote it my sophomore year in college. I started writing when I was 19. And it was an 80-minute one-act that I did in college. And then I continued to work on it after I graduated, and we opened on Broadway in 2008. And it's been sort of this crazy ride. Well, the thing is, you got to go in and you got to do the work, because a melody may pop into your head, but you got to go figure out how that thing works and how it moves. And it's putting in hours. There's a great quote by Leonard Cohen. It's like one of my favorite quotes. He says, "Being a songwriter is like being a nun. You're married to a mystery." And you can have written hundreds of songs, but the process of it is still unknown to you. Some of it is inspiration, some of it is in finding that, in chasing that melody down on the piano. I think a big takeaway from all of this is collaboration is key. With musical theater, it's different. It's 12 art forms pushed together. It's not just music. And so I think, Tommy, the director of Heights, was really great about, I'd bring in songs, and it was like show and tell, this is what I wrote, and then everyone threw in, and best idea in the room wins. And I think a lot of the stories you're hearing, it's the best idea in the room wins. And if you can find the collaborators that allow that to happen and aren't precious about their work, or I want to get this in because it's important to my ego to get that little thing in, but everyone's just trying to make the best thing possible and you're all on the same page, you're going to make magic.
It's great advice.